Hi everyone. So this is Geek Education Podcast. We are here today. I'm your host Paulus, and these podcasts will be quite regular on our platform and our website. We want to show you more about education. We want to introduce you to the corporate education, to excellent practices that universities uses, and also the encouraging and inspiring lecturers, teachers, and professors. And one of those inspiring lecturers we have today here, Elisa Kannasto, is joining us.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Elisa. So I'm very glad you're here today because we're going to talk mostly about you, and then we will talk a little bit about the upcoming events that we will have in October and November in Vilnius. So this is an excellent opportunity, I guess, for attendees to meet you, but also for those that haven't seen you before, understand where you're coming from, what are you doing in life, and what is the reason behind, you coming to Vilnius. So can you tell us a little bit more about why did you choose this field as your career in general, as a professional presenter and lecturer?
Wow, that's a big question. First of all, I love communications because it is a developing topic all the time and everybody needs it. So I get to work with exciting themes and I pretty much can apply this field into any subject or any profession out there. So that's like the big picture. And then going into personal brand, for example, I started getting excited about it with social media entering into our lives and how you can really make a difference in organizations and also people-wise in how you present topics and how you develop your expertise, how you network through personal branding. Presentation skills, then again, I've done theater most of my life, and that's pretty much what got me into the field of presentation skills.
Fantastic. So communication definitely inspires you, but what inspired you to follow, this sort of topic area? I know you've got PhD also in communications, so it must be pretty big passion behind the scenes.
Yes, like I mentioned, social media is my favorite kid, my pet, and my passion. And I've always been into the phenomena of social media and what it brings into our lives, what it can matter for marketing or what it can bring to table when we are networking, when we're informing people and so on. So then I was very interested in political communication. And I noticed that this topic hadn't really been explored in that sense. Everybody was talking about image and just PR and marketing in political communication, whereas I saw it really as something that had to do with people and how they market themselves and how they present themselves. And then I got into the boundaries between private and professional when we are branding and when politicians are branding, when athletes are branding or CEOs are branding. And that's where I found myself with my PhD. And in 2021, I defended my thesis on political personal brands on Facebook.
Brilliant. So as I hear a lot of politics and politicians mentioned, I guess in Finland they are pretty set up now with their communication.
Well, none of them has asked me to train them. So no, they're not set up. No, just kidding. Yeah, there's a lot of interest there because everybody's doing their own thing and then they're not very strategic in that way. So I would say we have a lot more athletes, a lot more CEOs who already know better what they're doing and what they're supposed to be doing. And this is now kind of the area where I'm transforming my research more into. I'm looking at strategic communication and how that comes into play when we are planning our own communications actions.
So strategy is the key, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Another question, I guess, before any training, at least I ask myself, is the lecturer's teaching style. So, can you shortly describe what sort of teaching style you normally take?
Well, I'm very interactive. I don't believe when training with professionals, I don't believe into this like pouring something out of the bucket and then thinking that everybody will just follow along and write everything I say. It's more about discussion and dialogue and how we can learn from each other. So I look at myself rather as a coach or a facilitator in those discussions, and I give sparks that initiate kind of bigger thinking and something that the participants don't only do there, but that gets them into thinking afterwards.
Fantastic. So, you expect your crowd to be pretty active as well, right?
Yes, yeah, I definitely ask a lot of questions. I asked the people to like give examples of their life and really think about things. And I love keeping the conversation lively, using humor and just bringing concrete examples instead of just theory.
Yeah, fantastic.
But
Your
obviously everything comes from theory because I am still an academic at mind.
Yeah, brilliant. And you work at the university, right?
Yes, I work for the University, Seinäjoki University of Applied Sciences, and I've been working with different fields. So I started as a communications lecturer in 2015, so quite many years ago, and I've been teaching everybody from agricultural students to cultural producers to business students to nurses. So I have a good range of different professions that I've been working with. I've been working a lot with students that are working while they are studying. And then right now I am the head of degree program for our master students. So I'm very used to working with long-term professionals.
Brilliant. I guess I have a slightly unstandard question. Do you have any expectation from your audience?
Well, like I said before, I'm very interactive and I enjoy the conversations and I believe into that we're all there learning. It's not only the audience that's learning, I'm also learning at the same time. So, yes, I do expect everybody to participate in the conversation and to kind of throwing themselves out there, being ready to learn and being ready to like open up in conversations, asking questions, and maybe challenging me a bit too, because sometimes I might throw ideas that might not work in Vilnius or might not work in the US or wherever I am, but then that's a good time for the audience to also challenge the trainer.
Brilliant. And my favorite question to finish off this section about you is I get this question from organizations all the time. We would like a successful, teaching event or successful courses. So what you normally consider as a success at your, teaching events?
For me, a success is something that carries along a lot further. So, what I, for example, love seeing is when I'm giving trainings, for example, about expert branding, and then I start seeing those people doing more LinkedIn or actually like writing better posts or whatever. So kind of like a training that carries not only a day, but a week, a month, or years after that, that gets them into thinking. And I love hearing later on from the people who have been there, like, hey, I just realized I've been doing this, or now I know what to concentrate on when I'm doing certain posts, for example.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic to hear. So going to the events topics, we kind of chose these two topics thanks to our clients, thanks to organizations that see the potential in these topics, but also one of the most common, I would say, keyword we keep hearing during the meetings is communication, the word that you mentioned quite a few times today. So one of the topics, the very first one that is upcoming in mid-October, is corporate social media and branding for professionals course. And for me, as a whole, I guess it's important to understand why we should care about personal branding as an organization, but also as a professional, I guess.
Well, first of all, people matter more than organizations when it comes to followers or those who engage in social media. So, uh, it has been researched a lot that people rather follow people than organizations. So that's where personal branding becomes really important. But also, why personal branding matters, it creates networks, it creates capital for people, like in terms of also actual capital, because it gives you more value in the job market. It gives you more value in terms of your networks. It gives you more value in terms of who you are in the organization. And obviously, for organizations, if their people are branding themselves, then the organization also gets the value. So it's not only about personal value, but it is also corporate value that is added when people are doing branding well. And everybody
Yeah.
has a brand, no matter if they're working hard towards it. So then why not focus a little bit to make it valuable?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking from organizations' point of view. We are talking about influencers all the time, and
Mm.
this seems like creating an influencers within your organization, right?
Yes.
And you kind of get these influencers for a same salary you would pay monthly anyway. So from organizations' point of view, this is definitely one of the biggest values, I would say. Would you agree?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And also to me, when you are doing kind of branding with your work and with your organization that you represent, you also get more committed and attached to that organization. So to me, it's also kind of almost like a job, what is it called, like a well-being perspective with your job, because also that has been researched that people are more happy with their work when they are talking about it, and especially when they're talking about it in a positive way, trying to make it sound good on social media. So there's also that aspect.
Yeah, brilliant. Um, I guess we touched a little bit on this, but saying that we already have this competence and we already went for a course and learned those things, what sort of value it creates for an individual and for an organization? What sort of I don't know, materialization or even monetization it could bring to the table?
I think I can offer kind of more like a strategic perspective on the things. And then how I feel a lot of times when you're talking about communications, everybody says, well, I already know how to speak. I already know how to listen. I already know how to write. So why should I do a training on communications? But basically, a lot of time, even though we know those things, we never stop and think about them. And we never stop and think about how could we do this better? How could I improve myself, for example, in negotiations or branding or whatever it is, what I'm doing with communications? And these kind of trainings offer everybody that chance to kind of stop and think before they're acting. And this is
Yeah.
exactly what one should regularly do with communications.
Fantastic. Yeah. I guess I will suggest now to become a bit naughty. We are no saints in social media, and obviously, as a professional, you probably keep an eye on those things. What is the most common mistakes, or what are the most common activities that people are doing wrong on social media when it's down to organizations or professionals?
Well, I guess now the easy answer is to say people don't stop and think. So we often write and then just press play and publish. And sometimes it's a good idea to think about whether this suits the mood or suits the tone of voice that we're trying to bring, or if we're commenting on something, if this is something that we really want public. So a lot of times with, for example, crisis communications, we could prevent a lot of things by just taking a moment and thinking about what does this mean to any individual. And this also, it's a good reminder that we're forgetting the fact that not everybody thinks how we think about certain words or something, certain pictures or videos. Not everybody thinks the same things are fun, so, or funny. So basically just kind of understanding that everybody's interpreting what we are publishing from their own perspective. So that's kind of one very common mistake. Another common mistake would be that we're taking a little bit too much of a stage fright. So we want to, for example, do personal branding. We want to hold up our social media, but then it takes us too much like stress because we're too worried about what people think and what can we publish, and is this big enough as a thing, or is this good enough of a picture, and things like that. So kind of we should become more relaxed and more at ease and more natural with it, and that way portray our genuine self. And that's how it also becomes less stressful.
Yeah, fantastic. Knowing your audience, I guess another point you mentioned, which is incredibly important, and especially, I guess, for international businesses that has their operations and members of staff, from different regions. And don't let me lie, but I think one of the greater aspects of your course, of your teaching in Vilnius will be on audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and also kind of remembering that we're always representing ourselves, but also representing the corporate that is visible on our profile. So kind of remembering that there is that connection when we're publishing, and understanding how viral things can be online.
Sure, absolutely. We all have seen some virals.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The next question, I guess, is the success stories. So we always like to celebrate some success before we attempt something. So do you have anything in mind?
Success stories on social media. This is kind of a conflicting success story, but let's look at the Finnish ex-Prime Minister Sanna Marin, who had the famous dancing scandal and ended up getting 200,000 followers during that 10 days of media scandals and problems. So I think that one and her behavior on social media in general was a great example of how you can monetize something that could have ended up as a disaster. Then obviously we have a lot of very known athletes. Look at people like Kimi Räikkönen, for example, from Finland, who have been able to monetize not only their athlete career, but making it very big. But yeah, I will present a lot more examples when we're in training.
Yeah, two big personalities. I think in Lithuania, most of our audience that will listen to this podcast can definitely know both of these people, and especially Sana, who I think in general, she kind of changed the way we see politicians across the Europe, and once again reconfirmed that there's no bad marketing, right?
Yeah. No, it's more about as long as you have people talking, it's always beneficial when you know how to turn it to your benefit.
Yeah, and this I guess really depends on your strategy, right?
Yes.
Brilliant. 3 giveaways. We always need some pens or notepads from any event or session we participate. So we cannot do these things virtually. But I guess one of the questions I normally hear is talking about evergreen social media. So for the audience that doesn't know evergreen, meaning it's something that basically you set up and it stays like it is and it doesn't go out of date, essentially. So is it possible to set up your social media so it becomes kind of a evergreen?
I wouldn't talk about evergreen because personal brand is something that is a process, and we as people grow all the time and we change and new things come and we develop new expertise. And I think it's really important that that our personal brand develops as we develop, because who wants to see an older person, like our old personality from 10 years? Would you want to get to know that person or the person I am now? So in that sense, I wouldn't set it up as evergreen, but obviously the more consistent we are, the easier it is for us to create that persona online and to stay with a particular tone of voice, or like we can develop the expertise and things we show but still remain kind of consistent and building that narrative that fits into who we are.
Awesome. Brilliant. So thank you on social media. Thank you, social media, for being with us. And now let's move on. As we learned social media, let's move on how we should actually present ourselves as a human beings in a real life, I guess, but also on a podcasts or videos. We do quite a few different methods. Now how we present ourselves. So to begin with, is it actually possible to do it for everyone? If I have a stage fright or presentation fright, is it still possible to do it? And why should I, having that sort of fear, should participate in this training?
Yes, of course. And that's when you would need this training, because my philosophy, where I start from with presentation skills, is that everyone can do it. I don't believe in charisma in that sense. I don't believe that there's only one type of people who can be great presenters. And I think our views on what is good presenting needs to be updated. So I don't know about you, and I don't know how it has been in your country, but at least in Finland, when I was going to school as a young kid, I was taught that you need to stay in one place and kind of in the middle of the room and stare in the middle and, talk very slowly and do a lot of pauses. Whereas now, people love live performances. People love it being funny and interactive and more lively. And actually, there was just a research published by my colleagues who have been studying this from a pitching competition, that the best points go to the people who are talking with their hands and really kind of changing the pitch at the same time and so on. So I think that has a lot more updates to do. And usually a lot of people with stage fright are afraid of these variations and bringing their own style into the table. So I think that they could really benefit from hearing these things.
Yeah. Sounds very familiar to my childhood, at least. And I completely agree with you. I think we're totally addicted to entertainment, and entertainment normally wins regardless of the content or information. So definitely. So would you agree then that with just the basic presentation skills, we are not going far? And if we have advanced skills, then I guess, can you say what sort of impact it could give us, during our presentation?
Yes, definitely. I mean, nowadays, a lot of people imagine when we're talking about presentation skills, they think of themselves in a big auditorium with, 200 people or 300 people. But presentation skills is also this, us talking, just the two of us, or us talking to the camera, or us talking in a meeting, presenting our idea to a board of 8 people. So we need to remember that pretty much the same laws apply. You're doing similar things to get influence, and you're doing similar things to convince people. And it has a lot to do with how you structure your presentation, your idea, your pitch, and it has to do with how interesting you keep it so that the audience actually wants to go with you on that ride and say yes to the idea you're presenting.
Yeah, absolutely. So being able to present and presenting an impactful presentation is two different things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody could present by reading straight from the paper, going like this, but that's not really impactful. What makes it impactful is knowing yourself and knowing the strength and then trusting into that and creating a story around your presentation.
So do I guess correctly that this session will be with a lot of practicing and a lot of public speaking?
A lot of discussion, at least, because that sparks the mood. But yes, we will be training also in real and trying to do like elevator pitches or idea pitches or just presenting ourselves in different ways.
Fabulous. What does this skill, I guess very similar question to social media where I've asked you, what does this skill or competence, what value does it create for your personal, but also for your organizational life?
Huge value to any organization, any field, basically. So, like I've mentioned a few times, communication skills is the basic core of all doing. And if you can't present, if you are too afraid to present your ideas, you might give the impression that you don't have any. So first of all, the personal benefit of being able to sell your ideas, being able to sell yourself, gaining maybe career advantages with that, maybe a pay raise, maybe, good sales. But then for the corporate, obviously, this is a big part of branding. Do they remember us? Do they remember our professionals when we go out there and we talk about our brand and we talk about our organization or what we do in life? So it can have a huge impact on who we collaborate with, who wants to buy our products or services, and who wants to, in general, go on the same boat with us.
Brilliant. Going back to school, I guess, again, which is very, very meaningful for a September podcast, as a lot of people just got back to schools and universities, obviously. When we used to prepare for our presentations, for those that are not as capable or does not have a advanced skills, we used to hear that, okay, this means you need to prepare more. But is there a real correlation between the preparation time and the actual presentation quality?
Oh yeah, there is. And I usually even say that if you have a 1-minute presentation or 3-minute slot to speak in a public place, you need to prepare more than for a 15-minute, oh, let me tell you something about this, So preparation is key. However, once you know yourself and you know your own style and what suits you, it is easier for you to prepare because then you can just focus on the narrative instead of focusing on where do I hold my hands and what do I wear and things like that.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah. So, Elisa, thank you so much for a short, but at the same time, very valuable conversation. Good 30 minutes sprint, I would call. For those that are listening to us, this podcast will be available on audio and also video platforms. You will receive all the links in the description. So all the information about Elisa's career, also about these two events in Vilnius, you will find there. This was GEEC Education. If you would like to find out more about us, go to www.geekeducation with C, geekeducation.com, or just email us, partner@geekeducation.com. So thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you.